Right, afternoon, everyone. As Liz said, my name is Paul Holmes. I'm one of the business advisors for Oxlet. I've worked with Oxlet now for sort of nearly 3 years, and had a responsibility of running the COVID response last year. I think I've now done, in the last 18 months, nearly 250 one-to-one. So it's been great fun meeting lots of Oxfordshire businesses and helping deal with some of the challenges, and also planning for growth for some of those as well. So one of the questions I ask is, why are we taking anything I have to say? So I've done a few bits and pieces, built some factories, built schools, manufacturing expert, worked in FTSE 100 companies for nearly sort of 25 years, and sort of been involved with business at multiple levels. My own consultancy, we sort of deal with large multi-million-pound organisations, and the focus is particularly around growth and overwhelm. So what we're going to do today is very much a condensed version of the program that I work with my clients. It's typically a 6-month program, so we're going to try and cram all of that into about 45 minutes. So don't pause for breath at any point. Obviously, it is being recorded, so you can come back afterwards. As Liz said, any questions during the slides, just stick them in the chat, and Liz will sort of coordinate those and feed those back at the end. Obviously, at the end of it, there'll be a Q&A session, then you can then ask any questions, however bizarre, however sort of, there are no silly questions. And then obviously beyond that, if you would like then to have a further conversation, we can set up some one-to-ones through Liz, and look at some specific challenges that you might have. So, plan for business growth. I'm very much of the opinion that growth is something that you should manage. If it happens out of your control, then it's out of your control. So designing what the growth look like and preparing for it are big parts of this, of what we're going to talk about today. So whether you're starting out and hoping your business will grow, you suddenly find that your product is in demand. An influencer has seen your product and has mentioned it, and suddenly your phone's ringing off the hook because everybody wants your product. You've been around for a while, but you're now looking to kick on with the business. So to look at how you can now make business sort of grow and get where you'd hoped it might get to. Or you're established, but you're now struggling to grow. Other things have happened. Obviously, everybody struggled in the last 18 months with COVID. As many people have struggled with the growth through COVID, opportunities that people have seen, and growing too fast has only become the big problem. So you've grown, you can't grow any further. You become utterly overwhelmed as a business owner, and that's the stuff that I particularly focus on. But all of those are scenarios that you as a business owner should start be thinking about. So evaluation, planning, measuring, evaluating, planning again. It's a very structured process, is growth, or it should be. Your business will start out nice, cute and cuddly when you start. It's relatively straightforward to begin with. You're doing everything, you're wearing all the hats, you're doing all the processes. But as you grow, there will be a point where that becomes a real challenge. So whatever stage you're at, planning for it is really important. And as I said, the danger is that if you're not already planning the growth, you might not be in control of your business already. It might be about to start growing, and if you haven't got things put in place, you might find yourself overwhelmed. But planning it ensures that you are ready to cope with whatever that growth entails. Looking at processes, people, systems, products, whatever it happens to be, you're preparing yourself ready for that stage. Everything will change in your business as you grow. And so being ready for it and knowing what that's going to entail makes it easy to manage. It also means you can start to look at things that might go wrong and plan for those as well. So a couple of questions. If you were suddenly very successful, so that influencer sees your product and starts announcing it, or you get invited to appear on a radio show or a TV show, and your product is suddenly the thing that everybody wants. How successful could that look like? How many people might want your services? How on earth would you cope with that? What would happen if suddenly that demand was sort of bigger than you could imagine? So flip that the other way around, because ultimately you all want to grow your business. You all want to have more interest, more customers. You want to grow this because this is your baby. This is going to give you your future. So at the point when you are successful, what does that look like? How big is that company? And what needs to be true for that to happen? So we go from, instead of saying, how would we respond if it does happen? Let's start to make it happen. Let's design the business for those things to be in place. So I've broken the various steps of growing your business down into some basic sections. And we're going to whiz through this very rapidly. There's a lot of information going to be sort of in these slides. And I say we'll pause and come back if there's something that you want to focus around. So I'm a huge fan of setting goals. It's the thing that would allow you to change the way that you run the business. We then have to evaluate what that goal looks like. What does your business look like at that point? Step 3, design the business to run without you. This is something I learned the hard way. And most business owners do as you grow. Design the business that you are a fundamental part of every step of the processes. Ultimately becomes a real challenge once you grow the organization beyond the time that you have available. So if you design the business to run without you up front, it makes life much simpler, much more straightforward. Step 4, your customers, your products and services will change as you grow. How will you maintain your customer service? The thing that you do now where you talk to your customers on a one-to-one basis and they get all of that great customer service. How will you ensure when you've got 200 customers that they get the same service? People, structure, skills, management. How will you run your company? Who will you need? Operations, my background. How will you actually run the business? How will it run at scale? When you grow to that level of growth, how will you still do the things that you do? How will you make things at the rate that you need to make them at? How will you deal with all the customers that you now have? How many people will you need in the organization? What software, what systems, what processes might you need? As you grow the business, then so the number of customers that you need will have to increase. Maybe not to the level that you fear, but something that will need to be increased. So you have to work out, how do you sell? How are you going to market? How are you going to advertise? What does your brand look like? Does that change as you grow the business? And to make all this happen and to make sure that the growth is a really structured process, we use action plans and use accountability, having somebody who holds you to account as you grow the business. And then the bit that's the most important, the bit that if you get it wrong will be the thing that costs you the business. Get it right and you should be okay. That's the finance and time. So controlling those two things in your business will be the difference between success and failure. So why do we set goals? If you write down your goal, you are 42% more likely to achieve your goal. If you tell somebody, that rises to 65%. They have to keep telling that same person over and over again on a regular basis. You are 100% more likely to achieve that goal. It keeps you accountable. It keeps you focused. By setting that goal, what we do is have a process where you then start to look at all the different tasks. Your to-do list every day, it's longer than the hours there are in the day. All those tasks are not equal. And each of those stars represents one of those tasks. Ask yourself the question, is the thing that I'm doing right now contributing towards the goal that I've set myself? If it's not, ask yourself the question, why? And is it something I really need to do? Setting the goal should focus you on doing the things that make a difference to your business, your company going forward. And hopefully allow you to look at the things that are interesting or fun, but don't achieve that same outcome, and decide whether you should be doing it at all. So why do we set the goals? Because if you set the goal at the scale of your organization needs to get to, you design where you're going to get the business to, and you start to act as if you are at the business at that scale. It stops being daunting. It stops being scary to be at that level. By setting the goals and the outcomes, the processes and the things that you'll need to do to achieve that outcome become much more defined, and it will change the way you behave. The things that look like mountains now, to get to that scale, when we break it down into a step-by-step process, will start to look like molehills. And suddenly you can see the path to achieving your dream, your outcome. And that self-belief, and that belief, that the confidence that you could actually achieve this, also starts to generate a lot of energy. So as you start to grow, the excitement, the adrenaline will build, and you'll start to believe in yourself. And you'll also see that there are other ideas, and there are other ways that you can grow your business that will help you run faster. So I have a client at the moment. We wrote a 5-year plan for them, and as a result of starting on the journey, we identified some things we hadn't spotted. And so he should now deliver his 5-year plan in 18 months, which is really exciting. It's been an incredible year for them. But that's what happens when you start to sort of put some structure and process in place. You will start to see things that will help you move forward. So on the chart here, you'll see that there's a little wiggly line, and that's how most businesses operate. Start up, work as hard as you possibly can, burn lots of hours, and see where you get to. And most businesses, if you're lucky, will get so far. But 80% of businesses do not get past 3 years from startup. It's really scary numbers. 80% of businesses that get to 3 years don't get to 5 years. So only 4% of new businesses get to 5 years old. It's quite a scary stat. And it is because most people do not plan to be around in 5 years' time. They don't plan for that growth. And by setting this goal, what we're doing is differentiating the output for the business. It means you do the things that will get you there, rather than this sort of slightly hoping for the best process, which most business owners do. And I kind of did the same to begin with. So the process that we run with my clients, and it's something that I would recommend for you guys, is a very straightforward process of we set the goal. We work out how will you achieve it. There's different routes. Are you the fastest? Are you the cheapest? Are you the most comprehensive? Is yours the luxury product? Are you going to sell online? Are you going to do sell this at the local market? Whatever your product is, whatever your service is, there's a different way you can create and grow through your business. You decide what that is against the target goals that you just set yourselves. That strategy turns into a plan. And a plan has a series of actions, all the things that need to happen to get you to that ultimate goal. Now, they're not all equal, so they need prioritizing. So you're only ever working on the thing that's the most important. And those actions become the action list, which we'll talk about in a little while. But ultimately, what you need is somebody who will watch over your shoulder and say, did you do the thing you said you were going to do on Friday? Somebody who holds you accountable. Now, whether that's somebody you trust, whether that's family, whether that's somebody that's been in business for a few years, but somebody who can just look over your shoulder and ask some questions. It holds you accountable. It's really important for you to grow your business faster. So evaluating the goal. So think about where you are today. Think about how many customers you can look after today. What are your processes? What do you make? What do you sell? How do you make them? How do you sell them? How much advertising do you do? How much time do you spend trying to get customers? Who have you got in the business? Is it just you? Do you already have staff? What are the systems and processes you already have in place? Now, all those things you just thought about for your business today, so you understand your business. So you know you can handle 10 customers a day. Now, at your target volume, you might now need to process 100 a day. How will you do that? And that's what we're starting to do here, is to look at what does growth really mean for you. If that's 100 customers a day, Is that 100 products that now need boxing, packaging, and storing? Does your supplier supply that many at a time? Have you got the right suppliers on board? And you start to ask yourself the questions, what will I need at that point for my business to grow to that scale? And the reason we do this over this extended period is that it doesn't all have to happen all up front. And that's what most people sort of look at the goal and think it's massive. It's a huge number I have to get to. But if we do that on a breaking that down on an exponential scale, it means that the stepping stone at each level is actually quite small. It's only 10, 20% change each year going forward. So as you grow, some parts of your business will change. These are sort of all the things that you as the owner of the business will be needing to think about at some point as you run the business. And as you grow, some of those things will no longer be quite as you imagined. As you grow in scale, there'll be jobs and things that you do and that you can't do anymore. You can't do small jobs when you've suddenly got a larger organization because your overheads are too high. But you have to now plan for everything to change in your business. And that's really difficult as a business owner because you're here, you've got your business, and everything about it is what you've created. It's what you love. But if you genuinely want to change and grow your business, you will have to assume that every part of your business will change as you go on that journey. You will get to do less and less of the thing that you love doing as the business owner, and have to spend more and more time working on the business, not in the business. That's one of those biggest challenges we all have when we first start our businesses, is that you end up being more than 50% of your time actually trying to find customers and not doing the thing you actually love doing. So one of the things that you've possibly come across, and I'm not sure whether it's on one of the previous modules, is a tool called the Business Model Canvas. And it's a simple tool that allows you to evaluate your business and help you create a model around how does your business actually work. And it's broken into 9 boxes. So the value proposition in the middle, that's what do we make? What do we sell? What do we do? What is the problem we are solving for our customers? Where's the demand coming from? It's really easy to create a product, then work out who your audience is. And that almost never works. It's much better to identify a gap, a need, a challenge that customers have, and then work out how you can solve that problem. The way this works is you typically print this out or sort of mock this up in sort of an Excel spreadsheet or something similar. And the best way to do this is with a group of you, and use Post-it notes and start to sort of throw some ideas at each of these sections. And you start by looking at value proposition and saying, what is it we're solving? What do we do? Next section is customer segments. Who are your customers? Who is your target audience? Because not everybody is your target audience. Who is the most likely to buy your product? Identifying those people and working out who you're not going to sell to is really important, because that will shape who you market to as well. What niche are you going to be in? If you try and be very generic about the product that you sell, it's very difficult to market that and sell that. So you need to really focus. Because relationships, that's how will we keep the customer happy. Channels, that's exactly how will we sell our product to the customer. Is it online? Is it through email? Is it in person? Are we going to be on a market stall? How each of those things, and it's working out how will we actually sell? What will we do? What's the process? And the other thing that's really important to start to look at is, as you grow your business, how many different ways of selling are there? Look at your revenue streams. Can we run a subscription service? What's the repeat business look like? Are we doing online? Do we have multiple versions? Can we do bundles? Are there discounted processes? So there's all sorts of different ways that you can sort of sell to your customer, and start to think about, can we make more money by doing less, selling in a slightly different way? Everything on the left-hand side of this page is all about what you need to do everything on the right-hand side of the page. So what money do I need? What resources, what people, what are the tasks that I would have to do? Who are my partners? Who are my suppliers? Where am I buying stuff from? Is the quality consistent? So I buy something already pre-made and I sell it on for a profit. How do I guarantee the stuff I'm buying is good enough to sell on? How do I do customer services? What do the returns process look like? So what are the things that you would have to do with your business? And doing it systematically like this and working through every part of your business will allow you to see things that you've possibly not seen previously. It's a great way to just stand back and look at your business separately. So we did this for an ice cream van vendor. And you can see that some of the post-it notes that were created just gives you a flavor for the kind of things that you produce. And then once you've got those, you can start to sift through them and you'll see things that you hadn't seen before, or you'll think about things you hadn't thought about before. And it just helps you really focus. There are some great 10-minute videos on YouTube on Business Model Canvas. It will just walk you through step by step. It's a great thing to go and have a look at. And you can download all sorts of spreadsheets and diagrams to do this yourself at home. So next step is design the business to run without you. I'm a massive fan of a book called The E-Myth, which is all about designing the business to run without you. Because at some point, the business will become overwhelming and you have to be standing looking at the opportunities and the risks to your business without being completely overwhelmed by the operational day-to-day. Depends how far you want to grow your business, but this is something I would strongly recommend that you start to think about. So design the business to eventually run without you. Create a team, look at management processes and systems, look at roles and responsibilities for that team. It's things that start to take the responsibilities off you. What are the things you can train other people to do that you don't need to be present for? So your value is to see what's happening, to see the risks and those opportunities. Imagine you are steering the ship, you are avoiding the icebergs. You may check on the engine room, but your job is not to put the coal in the engine. Because after a while, if you're down in the engine room trying to make the business work, who's steering the ship? This is a really big challenge as you grow the organization, that your role will change from doing to thinking and controlling. As I say, if you take absolutely nothing else away from anything I say today, go and find the E-Myth. It will give you such an insight into the things that you should be doing in your business and how you can design it to grow. Customers and products. So think about who your customers are today. Will you still sell them the same thing as you grow? And the chances are, depending on how big you want to get, the answer is no. Your product will change. Will you sell it in the same way? Again, probably not. Will they still be the same people, the same customers? Again, almost certainly not, depending on how big you get and where your products go. So you now need to think about who will be our customers at that point. You might have a £50 product that you sell today, but it costs you, the costs associated with selling that one product means that as you scale, suddenly your costs increase. You could no longer afford to sell it for £50. So it may be a product that you don't sell anymore. So you find other products instead that fit with the range. So as an example, I work with a facilities management company who used to charge £50 to change a door lock. As they grew to £1 million company, the cost of sending one of their engineers to somebody's house was roughly £70 each. So charging £50 for a door lock no longer made sense. So they don't offer it as a service anymore. It took them a while to realize they were losing money on the service because the overheads and the costs associated with it to run the whole organization meant they couldn't afford to be doing stuff at that level anymore. So we changed the way they operate, we bundle those services in with other things, and suddenly they start making profit again. It's about changing your offer to accommodate the changes to your business. But you need to think about how will those things change? What product can you sell at that goal output that you have in your repertoire today that actually makes more money? Do you have something that you can sell in a slightly different way to make more money for less effort? So it's all about starting to think about how you will do that going forward. But with one client who was selling a £5 product, we designed his goal was £1 million target. He would have had to sell 200,000 of those products a year at that scale. That scared him. When we had a look, he had a £25 version. But that meant we only had to sell 40,000 a year, which is a little bit more manageable, and he reckoned he could do that with 3 sales teams. It also meant that that £25 product was a posher product. Therefore, he had to look like a much more higher end company. So it changed his marketing, it changed his website, it changed his expectation. 40,000 boxes versus 100,000 boxes, so 200,000 boxes meant he didn't have to have as much warehouse space. The process of packaging was slightly different. So we were able to take his business from where it was today, selling a £5 widget, into something that could achieve £1 million revenue for him to give him the dream without necessarily having to sell 200,000 of those components. Your business will change as you grow. Have a think about what you can do to that scale that you could change your business with. And at that scale, think about how you will engage with your customer. How will you keep them happy? Because it can't be you anymore. How does your team look after them? What are your processes that you have in place to make sure they're happy? So as you grow, your team needs to grow. So what skills do you need? What are the roles and responsibilities that you currently do today that you would hope not to be doing tomorrow? How will you train your team? How will you write down those processes for them to do it for you? Where will you find your team? Who will be in charge when you're not there? At what point do you need all the people on board? Because you don't need all the people that will run your fully fledged successful business today. So when will you hire your first person, the second and the third? As a business owner, do you think you have the skills to grow your business? How can you help yourself? What are the training courses? What are the webinars? What are the various sort of skills that you've got access to within Oxlep, but wider? Have you worked with people? Have you to talk to people? Do you have people in your organization who have grown companies similar to yours, who can advise you, can show you the pitfalls? What are the processes as you grow? Management structure, communications structure. How will you run meetings? How will you make sure you get the best from your team? How will you develop your team? At some point when you go above 5 people, HR starts becoming an issue. So you need to have processes and systems in place. How do you train people, develop people? How do you manage them and keep them following the rules? Plan for how you might do that. Strongly suggest you outsource that service, but you as the owner have that responsibility of ensuring that you are compliant with all of the regulations. And there are lots of them and they change on a regular basis. So strongly recommend that's something you outsource. Operations. How will you run the business day to day? So you make something today and you make it at 10 an hour. By the time you grow the business to your target goal, you need to make 1,000 an hour. You can't do that on the same machine. You could buy more of the same machine, or you could go for a bigger machine that now produces sort of 200 an hour. And you need several of those. Where will you store them? What's the footprint? Do you need more space to put them into? Is there a different way of selling your product? Do you want to make 1,000 of them? Is there a different version that you only have to sell half as many for twice as much money? Can you sell your product at a different price point? Working with a client at the moment, they had a product that was around £3,000 each. Well, we identified that they had massive appeal to very large sales organizations. So that same product is now being resold as a £50,000 product with a £50,000 a year subscription service. So effectively making it £100,000. The product has not changed. We just identified a different market where we could sell the same thing to a different audience at a different price point. Now, you won't all have that opportunity, but there may be some things you can look at to say, how do I change my business to earn more money for less effort? Your supply chain, can they keep up? Are they going to be good enough? If they can't, at what point will you transition to a new supplier? How will you monitor them? How will you manage them? How often will you talk to them? So each stage as you grow your business, what will you need? Be clear about it and plan for it, because it will cost you money to put those things in place. Are you ready for that? Software, systems, and processes will help you accelerate what you do and automate what you do, so it's not manual. Start thinking about what you might need. As you grow, you might need to change premises. You might need to go into a commercial lease arrangement. These can be quite complicated, very expensive, can tie you up for a very long period of time. So get advice and guidance. But at some point, your business will almost certainly, as you grow, need that space. What will it look like? How long will it last you? How far do you need that space, and what point will it change to a higher level as you grow your organization? So if you know that by year 3 you need to double the space, taking out a 10-year lease on the first building is going to be a daft idea. But finding somewhere you can find a 3-year lease on it, knowing you're going to have to change at some point if everything's going to be successful, is a much better plan. And the other thing you have to start thinking about is health and safety. So again, strongly suggest you outsource that service. But you as the business owner have the legal responsibility to look after your people. And it is something that if you're not familiar with health and safety, starts becoming quite onerous, depending on what you do. If you're just simply a sales organization, then it's just office trips and slips and basic hazards. If you're a manufacturing company, you've got equipment and processes, then this becomes a big thing that you have to worry about. So, sales, marketing, brand and messaging. As you grow, you're going to need more customers. And you might think it's hard getting customers today, but tomorrow you might need 10 times as many to get to the scale that you need to get to. So how will you do that? Where are your customers? Where do they hang out? Who are they? How do you talk to them? What do they need to hear from you? So you might need to spend more money on advertising. Your brand might have to change and evolve to target specific sectors. Do you have to be clever about the way you do this? If you go and look at your website, if you go and look at what's online in terms of social media, does your brand and your message reflect what you think your customers want to see and hear? I'm currently working with a client at the moment who relied on word of mouth. COVID killed their word of mouth business completely. They're now 18 months later having to start again, but all of those referrals and processes that were in place previously have gone. They're now trading pretty much from their website. But their website looks like it was built in about 1955. And he's not doing them any favors at all. They hadn't planned for it, they hadn't watched it, they hadn't kept an eye on it, and it's hurting them. And they're now having to rapidly change their website to look like the world-class company that they actually are. But that's going to take some time, it's going to take some money. In the meantime, they're losing business. Raising your profile. So you as the business owner are the most important face of your business. And that's a really difficult thing because, like me, being out front talking about your business is not my happy place. Got used to it after a while, but you are the biggest asset your company's got. Standing up, talking about it. Finding places that you can talk about your business, what you do, your passion, the things you love, are the things that will sell your product. So you have to embrace the fact that you are going to be the face of your business, and slowly over time you will get used to that. How will your prices change? As you grow, your overheads change, your prices will have to change to accommodate that. Find a different way to sell your product. You might have to sell volume product to compensate for that increase in pricing and the overheads. So think about that as you go forward. Create an action plan. So as you set the goal, you go through every part of your business and say what needs to be true. and I can send Liz a basic checklist of the things that you go through in your organization to think about at scale. And each one of those becomes an action of, at some point, I have to have X in place. Who will do it? By when? What date? What's it going to cost? What's the process? You write that down. This becomes your action plan. You prioritize it, and you only ever work on the things that are the most important, the top 2 or 3 items on your list until they're done, and you reprioritize and work down. Otherwise, it's really easy to get completely overwhelmed trying to manage every part of that growth process. Just do the things that make the most difference. If you've got a team, it means you can allocate those tasks to other people. And there are some things that are bigger projects that you'll need in place, a new software system. Who's going to look after that for you? What's it going to cost? When's it going to be done by? And what's the process of checking that whether you are on track and on schedule? Because that checking, that accountability is the thing that will help you get there and keep you on track. So I'm a big fan of you separate operational, management, and strategic decision-making and the meetings that you have in your business. If you blur those things into one meeting, it's really easy to get confused and to miss opportunities. How you do that as you grow is going to be important. And you might not need to begin with, but as you go forward, it's good to separate those things out. And the bit that's the most important. If you look after time, cash flow, and profitability in your company, almost everything else will be fine. If you don't control those 3 things in your business will fail. It's as brutal as that, I'm afraid. So I cannot overstate this. These are the 3 things that are fundamental to you running your business and growing your business, because the pressure on these 3 things as you grow gets harder. So you need to think about, as you grow the business, what does my cash flow look like? Where am I going to be spending money? Growing your business costs money. You might need new equipment. You'll have to invest in people. At what point will you be able to afford to do that? As you grow, cash flow, particularly around, if you double the turnover, you quadruple the cash flow challenges. It's really easy to get yourself in a situation where you are ordering materials in bulk for a large order and then find actually the payment terms get extended. The larger the customers, quite often the longer the payment terms. So the longer the period that you're having to cover the cost of those materials up front. And I've worked with a number of businesses that have nearly gone out of business by getting that wrong. So somebody that helps you managing the cash flow, would recommend a good accountant will help you plan where are the dips. How do I make sure that what I buy, what I pay for, and when I get paid for it are aligned so you never go below a certain point with your cash flow in the bank? Because running out of cash is the thing that will also kill your business. So the equation that we use is around how you set the sale price. So what are the overheads in your business? So this is the cost of running your business day to day. Sat here in this meeting right now, your business is costing you money. And there's a beat rate of pounds per hour for the heating, the lighting, the website, the hosting, all the services that you pay for. Now, somebody has to pay for that. So if you sell 2,000 items a year, then each of those items needs to carry 1/2000th of the cost of running your business. So you spread it across all things you sell. So it needs to be built into the price. The cost of the services, if you buy something, a raw material, and then you sell it on with a markup, what is the cost of buying it in the first place? Contingency is for industries where customer changes their mind and you might have to do some modification and variations. So building industry, construction, very often the customers, what they ask for and what they want are slightly different, and you end up having to redo some bits and pieces. So you build some contingency into that price. So you end up your overheads, your costs, and any contingency, and if you sold it for that price, you would break even. So you now decide what profit you add to that. So if you decide that you would like to have a so 25 or say 20% net profit, then you probably have to set around about a 40% gross profit. So it's approximately double. But by building in your profit margin on top of your costs, you will set the price that you have to sell your product at or your service to ensure you get the target profit. Now, if your sell price doesn't fit in the market at this point, then you have to look at your costs. But if you try and sell below your sell price with these costs, you will cost yourself money or you won't make as much money. And I've seen plenty of businesses who simply buy something in, think by slapping 30% markup on it and then reselling it will be a great business model. Completely forgetting that they have people, they have buildings, they have overheads, they have heating and lighting to pay for. And actually that 30%, the cost of those things might be 35%. So I've seen businesses running major contracts who thinking they're making 20-30% profit, actually losing 5% profit overall when they actually look at their costs. So this is really critical to the business. To grow your business, it's going to cost some money. So look at investments. What kit will you need? What people will you need? When will you need them? Where will you get the money from? Almost all businesses that scale and are successful carry some form of business debt. So it is normal. It's very different as a homeowner or looking at personal loans, and we all think, ooh, that scares us. It is normal practice in a business to have a business loan and to invest in your business. And the businesses that invest in themselves grow the fastest and are much more structured and much more likely to see success. Getting that finance is relatively straightforward, but you need a business plan that demonstrates that you can repay that loan. And that's particularly, as I talked about, sort of 80% of businesses don't get past 3 years. If you take a 5-year repayment plan, you have to prove up front that you're still going to be around in year 4 and year 5 and convince the lender that that's going to be true. If you don't manage the cash flow, it will be a limiting factor. It will mean that your growth is very much slower than it could be. And there'll be points where this will hurt you. So think carefully about what you'll need and plan to have it in place. So really quickly, the business model canvas that we did, each of those boxes relate to parts of a business plan. So the great thing about business model canvas, it allows you to create a business plan that should help you demonstrate to a lender or to an investor or a partner that you actually have a business that's really clear about what you do, how you do it, how are you going to make money, what are the challenges, what are the steps that have to be in place, who are you going to work with, and write that down as a business plan. There are lots of tools to create a business plan, but I found the business model canvas is a really easy one to take the things that you've generated and turn them into an action list. So finally, grow your business carefully, plan it. More businesses fail each year by running out of money than running out of customers. So plenty of businesses that suddenly get overwhelmed by more customers than they can handle, if they don't plan for it, will run out of money because you're committing so much more to feed the processes to keep those people happy. And suddenly you'll find that you're waiting for a delivery to come in or a customer to pay something so you can then, before you can then order the next lot of stuff. But you've already got 200 orders for the next stuff. And you get yourself into this cycle where if you haven't got that money, the business will fold. And it's something like 90% of businesses that fail run out of money, even though they have customers and they have demand and they have a forward order book. Focus on profitability, on the time in your business. If you are overwhelmed as a business owner, you don't have the time, you'll miss things. You'll make poor decisions, you'll get sucked into the operation and you'll miss the opportunities. You'll miss the big risks. So manage the profitability, manage the time, manage your cash flow, everything else should follow. Now I recognize that's a lot of stuff in just over 45 minutes. Not expecting you to be experts in any of those things. That's just giving you a list. We'll send you the slides, we'll send you the notes, and you've got this recording to go back to, so you can go back and sort of look at those things in detail. And not all those things will be relevant as you scale the business at the same point. So maybe you come back to some of those points as you sort of go forward. But now is your opportunity to, if there's any questions that have been put in the chat, or any questions you want to ask me face to face now, then this is it. This is your chance.
Thanks, Paul. That was really interesting, and I wrote down absolutely loads because just so that everyone won't know, that I bought a business this year, which is a guest house business, and I pretty much put myself in the category that I wouldn't be able to grow the business because we're a guest house and there's only certain capacity. But actually, that session's made me think really differently about the business and growing it. So thanks from me as well. So
well, the Anthony, who's the owner of the business that both Liz and I work for, he sat through this process probably 10-15 times, and he still says every time he goes through it, he'll pick something else that we didn't spot last time.
Yeah,
it's just a reference, but it means that you've got people around you that you can come back to and ask us questions.
Absolutely. Has anyone got any questions now? I don't know if you want to put hands up or just unmute yourself if anyone's got any questions. Hi, Jane.
Hi, yes, I just wanted to ask, obviously you mentioned the difference between selling a product and a service.
Yeah.
I would be selling a service primarily, and so although I really, it's great, so much of the information that you provided there, I'm trying to relate that to actually selling a service when it's yourself, and how you can actually think of developing your business when it really is based on yourself. Well,
if you think about from a process point of view, the service that you're selling, there's time, there's energy, and there may be some costs associated with that. So it's how you doing that today, how many customers can you process? If you suddenly had to do twice as many tomorrow, how could you still do that and maintain the quality and the engagement with that customer? Now, chances are you can't do that, so you probably need some help. And if you're going to have a help to do that, then you have to assume that anybody you ever employ is only ever going to be as 80% committed as you are to your business, because it's not their business. So to make sure they follow the rules and do what you want them to do and act as if they are you, then you have to write down some processes. Then you have to train them to follow those processes, and then you have to check that they're actually following those processes. So the systems and stuff you need to put in place. So even though you're not making anything, there's still quite a lot of stuff you need to put in place that means that actually you could go out for a few hours and your business would still run. They'd still deal with customers on your behalf.
I think that's something I'm going to have to work with. That's a sort of the next level up that I'm going to have to try and incorporate, I think.
Yeah, I said that's where the E-Myth is brilliant, because it's in the book, the lady has grown the business and it's been all about her. It's fallen apart because she can't be everywhere anymore. And she sat with a business coach saying, what would I have had to have done to ensure that by getting to this point, I wasn't the one doing everything? And it's a step-by-step process. It's really useful, really helpful.
Right, thank you.
Anybody else?
Anyone else?
Questions?
Excellent. Hopefully this has been useful and helpful for all of you. And I'm sure you'll possibly have some things you think about and questions later, but feel free to come back to us. And if any of you would like to book one of the one-to-one sessions, then come back to Liz and we'll sort out who's the most appropriate person to help you with your business. But it has been a pleasure helping you guys.
Yeah, well, thank you very much. It's been extraordinary roller coaster. Just don't know, but it's very inspiring. But I got so many questions that I don't know where to start. But thank you very, very, very much. It's opened my eyes, and yeah.
No, our pleasure.
Thank you very much, and thanks again, Paul, for joining us today.
Excellent, guys. Enjoy the rest of the day, and we'll hopefully see you again soon.